Very good morning to the NMS families who are joining us. Maybe some of you are joining us from workplace, some of you are joining us from homes. A warm welcome and to the NMS library. Shireen, you may want to turn around. This is the secondary library. I'm not sure how many parents have seen the library. Are we spotlighted, Gwana? So parents can see us. All right. We wanted to have this meeting online so that maximum parents could join in, just given the significance of the session on reading. As a school, NMS has laid a lot of emphasis on reading and reading for a reason. In this day and age, you would agree that there is so much of information overload, right? All students have so much at their fingertips. So yesterday, I have this habit of going for an evening walk. I walk at least 10,000 steps every day. So yesterday's walk, I had this bunch of kids who were, I think, 5 or 6 year olds sitting by the swings and, in the park. And the conversation was, oh, but did you try this app, man? That app works better than this app. And this is a conversation among 5, 6 year olds who are sitting around the swing. So their information is all about technology and the World Wide Web. So in this day and age, what is the significance of reading? And the education system is yet testing students on reading skills, not on internet skills, not on surfing skills, not on their ability to Google, because that is at their fingertip. And that comes like second skin to so many of our students in this day and age. But what are we tested on? We are tested on reading. So why reading? What does reading do to us in the larger scheme of things? I was talking to these fantastic 5 students, apparently all girls, but they are our top readers at NMS. So I'm going to start with Parvati, right in the corner. Parvati from grade 12. Parvati, yesterday we had a chat about reading. Would you like to share with our parents?
Yes, of course.
Louder?
Yes. Good morning, everyone. My name is Parvati Ranjit. I'm a grade 12 student here at NMS, and I'm in the science stream currently, and I hope to pursue a STEM career in neuropsychology. So this morning, I wanted to share some insight onto how reading has impacted me. Personally, I have always been an avid reader. In fact, one of my fondest memories from my childhood is that of me and my little sister getting tucked into bed as our mother read aloud bedtime stories to us. So I believe this initial passion and thirst for knowledge was inculcated in me by my parents from a young age. Now, since I've always been interested in reading, I decided how can I further develop these interests? And that's when I started participating in competitions like the Chevron Cup, held by the Emirates Literature Foundation. And I'm happy to say, after a great deal of effort and hard work, we made it into the final round. Through this amazing opportunity we experienced, I further discovered the significance of reading. Reading enables us to do so much more, whether it be being a TEDx speaker, learning how to perform better during exams, it always helps. So I'll just like to conclude by saying that today, a reader, tomorrow, a leader. Thank you.
Wow, that's really a big hand of applause to Parvati, and there were 3 things that struck out for me from what she said. One, her mom always tucked her and her sibling to bed after reading a book. How many of your parents yet do that? Is that how your children go to sleep after having heard something from you? And believe me, parents, that will be a lifelong habit. If they get into this habit of reading something before they go to sleep, that's how it's going to be for a lifetime. The second thing was about her passion of getting into reading competitions. The Chevron Readers Cup is a exclusive signature event of the Emirates Airlines Festival of Literature. It's happening this year as well in March. And at NMS, we push kids to take part in that competition. Even this year, we sent 2 teams, both of which have qualified for the finals. And that's a great lot because you have 250 teams in the initial round, which gets knocked off to the top 10. So getting into the finals means that's a huge deal. And the last one, tomorrow a reader, today a reader, tomorrow a leader, which definitely Parvati is. Next off to Gauri. Gauri, would you like to share your thoughts on reading?
Yeah, so my name is Gauri. I'm from 11D. I have the second highest Lexile score at NMS in Achieve 3000. And the only reason for this achievement is because of my love for reading. So my love for reading goes back way far back. So it starts off when my mom bought me a book called 365 Stories. So it's one story for every day of the year. And at first I thought it was a punishment because being made to read a story every day, it seemed tedious. It seemed like studying even. So I was obviously distraught. But each day, every day, my love for books started growing. My love for stories started growing. I'd go to bed thinking of these infinite worlds and possibilities, and I'd just be so ambitious. So falling in love with a book, it's fatal because once you go in, there's no going back. But but this love of books, it's made me who I am today. In fact, I wouldn't be this thriving, passionate girl you see right now without the stories I was made to read in my childhood. So I hold a piece of every story I've read and a verse of every piece of poetry I've read because of my mother, and I'd like to thank her for that. So to conclude, I'd like to say, read not because of the various health benefits, for example, or the knowledge you gain from it. Read because you want to and because you love doing it, and you will see a lot of positive impacts in your life because of it. So thank you for that. Thank you.
Wow, why do I feel so energized after hearing that once you fall in love with reading, it's fatal? I've never heard that statement before. Is that an original one?
Yeah.
I need to go into the house of quotations. How beautiful is that, pen? See, if I had told you all of these things, you would have said, wow, that's mundane. You've heard that from every educator before, but this is really the proof of the pudding. And the immense benefits of reading. When my children were really small, now of course they're in university, but when they were really kids, like 3 years of age, 5 years of age, whenever we would go on a walk, we would say, stop, look at what's around you and talk for 1 minute. Now that 1 minute happens to be 60 seconds. To hold their thought on a particular subject for 60 seconds, like the stars. Today happens to be the lunar eclipse. It's a good time for you to take your children out, tell them, look up at the sky and speak for 60 seconds. And believe me, that 60 seconds will seem the longest minute of their life. But once they start doing that is when it becomes a habit. And they'll say, oh, but I need to know more. That'll get them to go and read on things. It'll stimulate curiosity. That's what reading does. It stimulates analytical thinking. It stimulates comprehension. It broadens their understanding of of global understanding. And more than anything, it gets them to be intellects because they know so much. So these three young ladies over here, they are the reading champions from their class. So one of them was telling me about this whole aspect of reading and how it alludes to analytical thinking. So over to you, Jessica.
So I am also a writer apart from
Louder.
I'm also a writer apart from being a reader. And as a writer, it's important to not only please your audience, but also to understand what you're writing and make sure it conveys the right message. So reading through Achieve 3000 has really helped me analyze passages better to see what I could improve in my writing. And and all the articles I read have helped me gain a better understanding of the way the world works.
Fantastic. Thank you, Jessica. So, she is a writer and reading here helps her writing. Then there's Surbi, whose Lexile levels in Achieve 3000. So you've heard this word, Achieve 3000, level up. I'm sure if your children are in grade 1 and 2, you would have heard of level up. Achieve 3000, there's reading app that we use at NMS. There's going to be more coming up, but you've seen all of our students endorse it. So Surbi, her Lexile has just been exponential and she's one of our reading champions. So Surbi, you would like to talk about that?
Yeah, thank you. I was able to grow my Lexile to this height because reading makes me understand what's going on in the world, not just my country where I live, but also in the whole entire world. And Achieve 3000 has helped me that in many ways. And I could see the world through a different lens, and I could see what other people are up to, and that really helped me. And it helped me because
broaden your horizon.
Yeah,
great. Thank you, Surbi. And then there is Jessica. There is Alita Pinoche from grade 9. Alita, you want to talk about your journey with reading?
Yes, so I have been struggling with reading a lot. After Achieve 3000 was introduced to me, I decided to try. My only aim while using Achieve 3000 was to increase my reading skills. But in addition to that, it has also developed my vocabulary knowledge. And after the tests taken up to see if you have improved, I've had a huge development in my Lexile scorings. So Achieve 3000 is where you can find different stories and articles that interest you the most and gain knowledge about them.
So I was talking to Alita about what kind of articles and stories that she reads. She said anything and everything that comes her way. The articles on Achieve 3000 or on topics like travel, adventure, it could be fiction, sports, music, a variety of genres and topics. So just imagine the immense wealth of knowledge that they are gaining. I wish Alita's parents were listening to this. I asked her, are your parents online? And she said, no, both of them work all the time. The only time they get is weekends. But I hope somebody conveys this to Alita's parents of what a bright star she is. So parents, now it's over to 3 fantastic people from the school. One of them is our head of assessments, Ms. Naimia. And then we have our head of secondary, Ms. Treaser, who is also the SLT line manager for reading across the school. And then there's Ms. Venetia, who's head of middle school, but who actually culminates all of the reading that happens from lower grades to the middle school and their entry to secondary. So they're going to talk to you about the significance of reading through these apps. They're going to take you on the very technical aspects of reading that's involved at NMS, the processes and the tools that we use to measure them. So it's over to the 3 of you. Starting with Ms. Teresa Ruston, please.
Good morning to everyone and absolute welcome and joy to have you investing. Good morning to everyone. Just getting the technical aspect of that right. I want to say good morning and a warm welcome to everyone. It's so heartening and encouraging to have parents give of their work weekday to engage with the school and become more aware and become partners in this journey of education. So thank you for that. I'm Teresa Thomas and I'm the head of second. And it's great delight actually to talk of the great initiatives that the school engages with. If I could take you on to the next slide. So as we're just getting that slide up for you, on your screen are a list of 5 very crucial approaches to reading at school. And the first 2 will have in-depth awareness from our head of assessments, Ms. Naimia. And the third is something that all English department teachers and everyone at school is so passionate about it. It's acronymed as Dear Time, Drop Everything and Read. And of course, the reading across the curriculum, which encompasses an integrated approach to reading. And what better than one of the most beautiful libraries that I have actually been in as an educator and the one that we're sitting in today. And so much gratitude to our principal who's actually curated this space. And towards the end, you'll hear us talking about how space and time are so crucial to the reading habit. In grades 1 and 2, that's lower primary, the school has subscribed to Level Up, again, a platform that is adaptive and is so bespoke to that early formative years where the mind is so impressionable. As you can see on your screen, there is specific audio voiceovers that make reading engaging and likable. There's animation. There's so much more that Level Up offers to students to lure them into reading and sustain that habit. And it's very bespoke and personalized to every student. So that's Level Up in grade 1 and 2. And the catalog on Level Up offers 2,400 books to students. Grades 3 above, the school has subscribed to Achieve 3000 as a platform both for raising standards in reading as well as for assessments. So on the left, a few key focal points of Achieve 3000, and all students have logins and they can look at their progress through the week, through the month. And the school makes a real conscious effort to celebrate reading, both on the platform, in the weekend communique, and on social media. So Achieve 3000 provides educators with a month report of students showing not just the highest lexile, but also the highest lexile gain that involves word recognition, word choice, and expansion of vocabulary, definitely vocabulary comprehension. You heard Surbi a few minutes ago, and that's how she was celebrated in the weekend communique. We currently have 10A leading across all grades with the highest class lexile scores. That just shows a lot of consistency, both from the English teacher, Miss Anne, and the class being motivated. We also have Achieve 3000 incentivize reading through the top class out of all the sections in the school. And that was Miss Eleanor 60 winning the prize. And how students not just read on Achieve 3000, but they issue a book every week from the library. They're able to review it in their reading journals. And our librarian, Ms. Sharmila, is then able to look at those reviews along with the English teacher and commend reading across the whole month. So the Reading Marathon and the Reading Champions is incentivizing reading at school. Perhaps the best outcome of reading can be most seen in reading journals across school. And reading journals, I must mention here, parents, is bespoke to every grade, customized by English teachers for students. So it's personalized. It's not probably just taken off, but it's created for the students. And in every class, you would see reading reviews celebrated in the spaces. And the texts that are chosen range from informative texts across subject domains, and to have students consciously make that effort to analyze different parts of a reading text is also quite great. This is where parents engage with school and partner with us. We're moving into Sangachadwam at the end of this month, and it's the World Cultures Week where we celebrate not just English, but French, Hindi, and Malayalam as well. And every literacy week or Sangachadwan week at school, we have parents who partner with us, come in for 20 minutes, move into about 83 sections, and in 20 minutes share their reading, share their experiences of reading, and tell us and engage in an interactive section with students. So this was a picture from last year of our reading sessions, and this picture on your left is something that happens across the school in one registration lesson per week. That's when students drop everything and read. And the best part for me is when teachers are reading as well. We've had the author visits, again, another initiative to boost the love for books and understand the craft of writing. Just a slide to show you how our parents have been so gracious with bringing in their love for books and coming and sharing that in class. I must mention that in 2022, the Dubai Inspections Bureau report did outline reading across the curriculum at GEMS New Millennium School as well developed. And in that year, they had outlined as an area of improvement the need for accurate reading information, and that to feed into students' future learning. And both Level Up, Achieve 3000, and the assessment platforms at school do exactly that. Would like to take you across how reading across subjects is sort of integrated and celebrated. In English, you would have during the thematic week of the Autism Awareness Week, we had students reading texts from reliable sources and then condensing that using graphic organizers. In maths, they read the autobiographies of famous mathematicians, and that is then linked into case-based and problem-based mathematical story-based sums. In economics, students would read or use the system of SAR, which is a form for summarize, analyze, and read, and bring that reading, which is flipped, which means that they read at home, and bring that reading into new learning in the class the next day. And how beautiful to see students in the middle school and the secondary actually reflect, analyze, and take that reading further. In the IGCSE, Cognity as a platform is wonderful because it allows each student to move from core reading skills to extended reading skills. Not just the core subjects of English, math, and science, it's lovely to see that computer science and marketing in daily lessons also emphasize on purposeful texts that are brought in, which build high order thinking skills. So that's a case study that leads into students finding solutions using coding and Python programming. And you have an article from Amazon actually leading into a case study in a marketing lesson where students present using the marketplace strategy. This is perhaps the best part. And to have a school invest in 22,000, over 22,000 books in the senior and the primary library is immense. This is a number that's counting. I do want to mention that books in the library are not just procured and listed out from the librarian's end. We have students also who list down or suggest books that they would like to read, and copies for bestsellers and favorite reads are also kept in mind. This book number encompasses fiction, non-fiction, self-help books, every category and genre of books. And it's beautiful to be seated right now in a library where you have magazines and periodicals also for students to read. So great spaces and excellent reading resources. On the right, on your screen is the reading policy of the school, outlining the reading objectives that sort of guide the entire core principle of how we want to take reading forward at school. I'd like you to listen now to Nehemia take you such an integrated approach to reading assessments.
Good morning, everyone. Myself, Nehemia Kandi. I am the head of assessments. The UAE National Agenda Parameter 2021 includes reading as one of the key priority. The school's commitment and investment in standardized reading assessment with the rationale to raise reading competency among all age groups. So this academic year, the school has subscribed a set of standardized assessments. On your screen, you can see the NGRT. The NGRT means group standardized termly assessment that reliably measures students' reading skills against the national average. CAT4, the cognitive ability test, which measures students' ability in 4 batteries, which includes verbal, non-verbal, spatial, and quantitative. ASSET, a standardized reading assessment, which tests comprehension skills based on the national curriculum assessment and focus. Achieve 3000 and Level Up, Ms. Teresa has just mentioned the school's assessment tool, which tests students' reading Lexile scores on a monthly basis. The NGRT and ASSET measures students' attainment, whereas the CAT4 measures students' ability. So the data from these assessments help teachers to compare students' potential versus performance and to take necessary intervention to develop the reading skills. The details of this assessment and what it tests, you will see next.
So the NGRT, which is mandated by the regulatory body for all students next academic year, is administered 3 times a year, and it looks both at vocabulary comprehension and passage comprehension. Questions are adaptive, which means they're personalized to each student. So these are just a few snapshot examples of how it would be for a primary student and how it would progress in complexity. This is a closed passage where students have to identify the right word and fill in the gap. And this is perhaps a little more complex with a shorter passage with students having to reason out why the author would have added so many details about a certain aspect in the text. So like Nehemia was mentioning, there is reading comprehension on the bandwidth of not just comprehension, word choice, understanding vocabulary, but also analyzing it, evaluating it, interpreting it, and having a point of view about the text. So these are high order thinking skills for students. Phonics in the lower primary is also a focus in the new group reading test.
So what is CAT4 used for? Basically, the CAT4 tests students' academic ability in the verbal skills, where how the students understanding, like matching with the synonyms. It also provides feedback to the teachers where a student's verbal ability is less. The CAT4 scores start with a score of standard average score of 59, it goes up to 141. If a student's CAT4 score in verbal battery is below 90, then that means the student have a verbal deficit. So this helps teachers to plan a strategic intervention to support students to develop their vocabulary. The 4 batteries, as I mentioned, verbal, quantitative, non-verbal, and spatial. We have already covered regarding Achieve 3000 and the level up. Again, it's a level set assessment with differentiated text, embedded assessment, and as and when students read, like there is a fixed set of books, the activities students have to complete to have a specific lexile growth.
So the beauty about these assessments is that teachers get such a comprehensive per student feedback across complexity, skills, and reading. So this slide shows you how questions are framed on author's purpose, compare, contrast, making inferences, making predictions, and the most often that's used in university and higher education, which is summarize and support reading evidences. Also want to point out for parents that in every activity that students do, Achieve 3000 aims at a 75% accuracy. So when a teacher is able to track a below 75% accuracy, that means that there needs to be work that happens in class to up-level those reading skills. Every grade group has a band within which you have a grade level expectation for lexile. So a child could be far below, could be approaching the minimum expectations, could meet the expectations, and the best ones, like a few students you heard a while ago, are all exceeding lexile levels for their grade.
So as it mentioned, the student under the approaches battery, if the student's lexile scores meets the battery of approaches, the student have to minimum complete 8 activities per month to ensure that the students moves from the approaches to the mid band. Similarly, if the students far below the proficiency level have to complete minimum of at least 12 activities to move from far below to the next level approaches.
The lexile tracker that the platform offers to teachers also helps to see how the progression across months happens. So perhaps the summer months for this particular child were not as great as perhaps when they came back to school and they had that added impetus from the teacher to push through with activities. The platform is great because not just you have individual student tracking, but also tracking across different text types, and students can win badges as well for their competency and proficiency on the platform. Like Nemia mentioned, ASSET is an assessment that really bases itself on the assessment focuses of the National Curriculum of England. And for parents who have taken a glance at reading journals, you will find that the assessment focuses forms the core of reading complexities and movement of students from AF1 to AF7. AF1 would be the basic bare minimum of the child's ability to use strategies to decode a text, read for meaning. And perhaps by the time they're in grade 7 and grade 12, they should be within the band of AF6 and 7, which is high reading complexities, where they comment and write purpose, viewpoints, the overall effect of the text. We talk about tone and mood in lessons often, and they're able to relate a reading text to a broader spectrum and keep it interdisciplinary.
The ASSET starts from year 3 onwards. In lower primary, the same national curriculum focus were modified, and the teachers track their reading through the reading tracker. You can see on your screen the different reading goals which is tracked in the lower primary.
The reading portfolio, the reading journal, allows for texts, like we mentioned, across text types, nonfiction and fiction, and some are subjective questions and some are multiple choice questions. High complexity, again, for students to comment. So for parents who are wondering, well, why this heavy intensity? So students who are looking at writing their IELTS, their TOEFL, their SATs when they move out of graduate from school, these reading skills actually build into those competitive exams, and all competitive exams, in fact, whether it be even the administrative services, or if you'd like to move into heavy research in university. We just finished the Spell Bee across grades, except for phase 4, which is going to happen on the 24th. And word recognition, knowing the pronunciation, identifying the part of speech, understanding the meaning, and then most importantly, its application and usage in a sentence. All of that is what the vocabulary log is about. So this is what we've moved into the domain now of purposeful reading, reading from pleasure to reading now for purpose. Another example of the vocabulary bank that you should find in English notebooks. And if you can, even if students are talking at home, 5 words a day is a great way of promoting reading, writing, and the word recognition connect. This is something we'd like to perhaps talk about. And in 2016, in fact, the UAE declared it as the year of reading. And a beautiful quote by the late His Highness Sheikh Khalifa bin Zayed Al Nahyan, where he said, reading is but the basic skill for a new generation of scientists, intellectuals, researchers, and innovators. He said the establishment of a knowledge-based economy requires the nurturing of a generation of readers. How so articulately and so well put. So what does the UAE really do in terms of promoting a culture of reading and putting that emphasis on reading and getting that culture of researchers, scientists, innovators? Like I said, not just was the year of 2016 declared as the year of reading, the cabinet also put in place a national literacy strategy. March in the UAE is observed as the month of reading. And the Arab Reading Challenge is a huge hit among most schools, where winners a heavy recognition for journeying through 10 books, writing summaries in 5 phases of competition. But for parents at NMS, I'd really like you to focus on the next 3 points, and I hope your children can at least participate, witness these great literature and literary events in the region. The first, like Ms. Martin mentioned, was the Emirates Airline Literature Festival. It's slotted for the 1st to 6th of February. Great place to take your families out on a weekend, attend author sessions, workshops, participate in the Fringe, which is sort of a showcase of performances. Our school also will be visiting certain workshops. As of today, we've had 2 teams from the primary, one from the secondary, qualify for the Chevron Readers' Cup finals. It's out of over 200 schools. And for students in a team of 4 to master 3 books to the level of minute details is a huge accomplishment. We've had students participate in the short story writing competition. And on the 14th, we'll have students perform at the NBD Poetry for All. The Sharjah Book Fair is currently on, a lovely place I'd love to visit with my son every year. I'd urge you to also visit. And this year it's a 12-day festival. I call it a festival more than a fair because it's got everything in it. And definitely the Mohammed bin Rashid Library, for those of you who can, is a must visit. So that's the context of the country we live in. So at the NMS level, what is it that we really aspire to? What's the vision? What's the goal for every child? We hope, as per the reading policy, to have every child complete reading 20 books per academic year. The writing of book reviews is a great form of reflection, and then that comes into word study in the reading journals. Like Naimia mentioned, every student completes 2 activities on Achieve 3000 every week and aims to achieve 75% accuracy. And the rest of the points are more or less what we hope students will gain and benefit through the process that we mentioned. Perhaps the last bullet point is something I'd love for parents to pause and take a read through.
Having heard a quantum of information on reading, its significance, and the impact, I'm sure you're wondering, as parents, how do I contribute to the NMS vision of I read, therefore I am? Ms. Teresa and I will share with you a few strategies that could help you establish reading routines at home. As we are all very familiar with the fact that a lifelong love for reading starts at home. The love for books and reading is the best gift that any parent give his or her child. Reading can be established anywhere, anytime, even while you're out on a visit to a friend, while traveling, or even when you feel that you need to take a nap. Parents, I urge you that you lead by example. For younger children, it's story time that is the most memorable and that creates memories for a lifetime. Surround your child with books. And as Ms. Teresa mentioned, space. So use the space at home and surround it with books so that your child is actually develops an interest for learning and is inspired to read. Set a fixed time for reading. You might be having a busy schedule, but I believe that even 20 minutes could definitely help your child for a lifetime. Give them incentives, rewards on special days, festivals, birthdays. And this will develop the connection to books, the love for reading. I now hand it over to Ms. Teresa to take you through a few more points.
So parents, the sole intention of this session is for us to as educators, as families, as parents, develop this culture, this habit, and this routine of reading. And for those of you, and I know there are quite a few of you who have dinner time conversations around books, you could see students making or children making connections between their experiences in books. If on the weekend you could invest in a trip to a library, please do so. This is something that a book swap is something that I do in my class, where students can bring the books that they have read, they label it, and students could exchange it among themselves. So therefore, you're just sort of looking at reading in a very budgeted format as well. For families who set aside a fixed amount of money every year on procuring books, hats off to you. The reading space at home is something that Ms. Venetia spoke about. If you can at home incentivize reading. So Mark Zuckerberg, I'm told, reads 2 books every week. And Warren Buffett, I'm told, reads a whole lot every week, including 7 newspapers a day. So parents, this is a plea and an urge that you encourage reading at home, that you model it, that the love for reading and the love for books permeates right through the community, and to hold our children in our care for the best futures that they can have and for them to pursue their dreams.
So dear parents, I've been looking at some of the comments that you have on the chat box. One of the parents, in fact, said that your child's, has actually written books and she's only in grade 1. Written stories and she's only in grade 1. Well, I know she's not in school today. I look forward to seeing her sometime. Thank you for all of those parents who took time to put in your comments on chat. Some parents, one of the parents, I think, had a comment that, well, all of the, the apps, yeah, yes, they are online resources. But then the library itself, if you take a look, we have purposefully, and in fact, I'll take you to a closer look at the library. So this is the secondary library. This is, in fact, if you visited the primary library, it's a very different format. It has a Harry Potter theme, the 934th station itself. And the kindergarten library is again very different. The Arabic library is a different one. So we have at least four libraries in school. This is the secondary library. Books are labeled alphabetically by the author. So if you look at L, and all of the authors whose names start with an L is right up here. So you could see the entire series of Leo Tolstoy. So from the classics to the contemporary, there is, I look at M. I think most of the authors have their names beginning with an M. You will see a whole series of authors with M, especially, this is my favorite. And some of them are so particularly, personally sourced by me. The entire Michael Mubago series, which is over here. The Michael Crichton series. Michael Crichton is the author of the Jurassic World and so on. One of my favorite science fiction authors. So you have that one. And if you look at on this side, for example, L, you have the whole set of authors whose names start with an L, from the classics over here to the contemporary versions. And then similarly with different, it's a range of books, and it's all not fiction. We have 50% of books which are fiction, and 50% of books which are self-development, non-fiction, biographies, travel, adventure, and so on. And books of all kinds, books for all kinds of people, no matter what your taste is, and that has been sourced. So if you look at the P series, you have the whole Paulo books, one of my favorite authors again. So books that are sourced depending on taste and depending on what our children should know, not giving up on the classics and yet being very contemporary. So the app, the good thing about the app, whether it is Achieve 3000 or Level Up, is that the app has articles, and articles are short, and you're able to test the students on their Lexile scores, because this is very particular relevant vocabulary which is mapped to their grade level expectations, which we can't do with a book. But the book itself is a great habit. We expect students to read at least 20 books in a year. That can't happen unless reading is a habit that is developed at home. So I do hope that after this session, there's been greater cognizance, at least for parents who attended, and the word spreads. And this is like a small spark, isn't it? Kindles a wildfire. So I did look up at the chat. Those were the consolidation. So thank you to all parents who joined us today. We'll have more such sessions, something on math, on the significance of mathematical skills and what we do at school versus what can be done at home, and similarly on scientific skills. And we keep it ongoing. So thank you for attending this masterclass, parents. Have an enjoyable day, while I'm going to try and take a sneak peek into this book and get back to my work as well. Thank you again.